Today, I'm going through 5 wide receivers who currently carry a top 24 ADP over on ESPN, but last season finished wide receiver 24 or worse. And Vegas currently has their offense ranked among the league's bottom half in terms of their projected scoring. So we're talking about guys who, yes, are talented enough to be being drafted inside the top 24 in the first place, but weren't overly productive last year and aren't exactly in an offense we're expecting fireworks from. So accordingly, not a great combination. I want to go through the glass half full, glass half empty scenario for each and try to determine whether or not these guys are in fact looking like busts ahead of next season. Kicking things off with Mr. Justin Jefferson. Guys, currently Vegas has the Vikings offense ranked 20th going to 2026. And we're talking about, despite being one of the best wide receivers on planet Earth, just the reigning wide receiver 32 in PPR points per game. So if we did want to try to paint more of a glass half full picture here, it would be getting a quarterback upgrade from JJ McCarthy to Kyler Murray. I actually went ahead and looked at a full list of these wide receivers changing quarterbacks this offseason and found Justin Jefferson to be one of the biggest beneficiaries in terms of catchable target rate. I even removed screens from this, and we can actually see a plus 9% increase in catchable target rate in terms of what Jefferson was dealing with JJ McCarthy last year and what Kyler Murray did in the first 5 games, again, when throwing to his wide receivers. So again, like we all agree, Justin Jefferson is the absolute man, leads the NFL in receiving yards since he entered the league, leads the NFL in receiving yards since the year before he got into the league. So that's what we're talking about here. That's how freaking great Justin Jefferson is. But that didn't stop him from finishing wide receiver 32 last year. And as we get into the glass half empty picture, are we positive Kyler's going to be a big upgrade? We all, except Thor, we all hate JJ McCarthy. We don't hate him personally. Maybe you do, but we should all be able to agree that he was not a good quarterback last year, that he was a terrible quarterback last year. I don't love that this near consensus, really, really bad quarterback averaged quite a bit more yards per attempt than Kyler Murray, guys. Kyler last year, 6 yards per attempt. That ranked 37th among 42 qualified QBs. JJ McCarthy was at 6.7, which ranked 27. So it was also this weird thing where Kyler, not like he's been afraid of throwing downfield in the past, but last year, man, 6 air yards per attempt. That ranked 43rd among 45 qualified quarterbacks. Old man Aaron Rodgers had a longer average target depth than Kyler Murray last season, man. Only Dylan Gabriel and Brady Cook were lower. So really, really tough company. Some stats, EPA per dropback, paint Kyler a little bit better. You get some of the rushing stuff in there. But, man, when you throw in the caveat, too, that what we're hoping to get out of Jefferson is more goodness over the middle of the field. Okay, that's been one of the big callbacks. Sam Darnold finding a way to get the ball to Jetta's intermediate over the middle areas. That's not really Kyler's game, man. Kyler does a lot of good things well, particularly off script, particularly in what he can do run the football, being able to see over that line, throw in rhythm over the middle, not exactly something great. So I'm probably not going to be going to war with Jetta's. If I did have to go ahead and put myself out there on a limb and say, hey, he's wide receiver 6 right now in ADP, should we be expecting that to persist? Should we call him a bust at that? I would be leaning more towards bust. But if we have a scale of 1 being not a bust at all and 10 being, oh my God, it's a complete bust, you got to stay away, I'd probably settle in around a 6 or 7 out of 10 there. But again, guys, I do more and more. I look at it and I don't like doing the fantasy alleged expert thing where I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get some exposure to Justin Jefferson. I'm in a lot of leagues. And I just feel like it's such a cop-out. You know, at the end of the day, we're here to try to give you guys advice. And I'm trying to run the numbers and give you the best advice possible. But I'm going to be wrong. And feel free to yell at me when that is the case. Right now, I am leaning towards Justin Jefferson being more of a bust as a top 10 pick. Not because he's not a great football player, but because more so because I do worry that this quarterback situation, which single-handedly doomed him last year, isn't in all that much of a better spot ahead of 2026. Speaking of some of that fantasy advice, though, real quick, guys, I want to invite you to use code Ian20 on any RotoWire subscription. You'll get my expert ranks. You'll get all my articles. You'll get all of our awesome tools, including our live draft assistant, including our in-season waiver wire start sit tool, that and so much more, guys. So again, if you're planning on just trying to get a little bit of a leg up, you know, you really want to take it to your friends and family this year, get those bragging rights, get that championship banner. Team RotoWire would love to help you out along the way, and you can get 20% off any subscription with code Ian20. Back to business. Tetairoa McMillan also popping up, guys, as a potential bust here, all right? The Panthers offense per Vegas, just 26th entering the 2026 season. And we're talking about a guy who, while he had a good rookie season, still just the wide receiver 24 in PPR points per game. So, when we're having to draft the guy as the wide receiver 16 on ESPN, we are taking a little bit of a leap of faith and assuming that he's going to not only improve, but that this Panthers offense is going to be, actually good at football. But hey, glass half full for a second. He's obviously a really good football player. And it's not like there's not other wide receivers going even earlier in the drafts that maybe don't have the cleanest quarterback situation. All right. Drake London, he's dealing with Tua and Michael Penix, and also Nico Collins with CJ Stroud, someone who has been better than Bryce Young generally throughout the careers, but obviously isn't without his warts as well. So quarterback situation leaves a bit to be desired, obviously, but Jalen Coker really the only other show in town. Chris Brazzell now out for the season already. I have nothing nice to say about Xavier Leggett, so I'm not going to say anything at all. No tight ends to speak of. Tetairoa McMillan, man. That wide receiver 24 mark as a rookie, not bad at all. And there were so many plays. Literally started in week 1 where he would catch the ball and barely miss getting the second foot down, or there's a ticky-tack OPI call at the end of the year. I track all this stuff in this Sheesh report, which I cannot wait to unveil again this year, kind of like the beyond the box score metrics that you'll see if you watch the games and maybe won't catch in the box score. T-Mac was up there with the freaking most near miss opportunities at the position last year. So 150 plus targets seem to be on the table. Maybe Bryce Young is ready to make a mini leap. Not a short joke, I swear. I do think Tetairoa McMillan, you can argue the bull cases, there's not that big of a difference between him and guys like Nico Collins and Drake London. The glass half empty is realistically, this passing game is probably going to suck, guys. And do we really want to invest a top 16 wide receiver pick on the lead dog in a passing game we expect to suck? Bryce Young, let's be nice for a second. Throws a great deep ball. Look at the passing efficiency metrics. All these advanced stats when he's throwing the ball 20 plus yards downfield. They're going to tell you he's one of the better quarterbacks at doing so. I think the eye test adds up, man. Throws a very catchable deep ball, nice loft underneath it. Again, that is the strength of his game. Also, the dude's kind of Houdini in the pocket sometimes, man. When he's able to move around, like that was his superpower at Bama. Now, took him a little bit to get adjusted in the NFL. He's obviously not a guy with, outstanding physical tools in terms of his height, in terms of his speed, size, and all that. But even then, was able to run around a lot last year, had some big plays against the Seahawks and even Rams down the stretch where, again, you saw what he could do with his legs, extending plays, finding ways to get the ball out at the last second. At his best, he does a real nice deep ball, and he can be shifty in the pocket. That was me being nice. The problem I have with Bryce Young is that pretty much every stat that we use to try to evaluate quarterbacks says he sucks. Here's Bryce's rank among 59 quarterbacks during their first 3 seasons since 2000, minimum 30 starts. Out of 59 quarterbacks, he's 53rd in passing success rate. He's 55th in yards per attempt. He's 50th in yards per game. He's 47th in touchdown rate, 41st in passer rating, 50th in sack rate. Even the passer rating, man, like 41st. I just got done listing all the mid-50 numbers. Sounds okay. That's still bad. RotoWire projections, which you can check out on rotowire.com. They have Bryce, 3,184 yards, 27th. 20.6 touchdowns, that's 24th. Maybe you think those are low. I don't think you disagree, though, that if we had to rank all 32 starting quarterbacks, particularly team-wide, you know what I'm saying? Like, we still expect the Arizona Cardinals to throw for more yards than the Panthers, even if Bryce maybe throws some more than Jacoby, because Jacoby could get benched first. It's really rough, guys. Brad Idzik has taken over the play calling for Dave Canales. He was, maybe that's going to lead to a newfound leap. Would have been a lot cooler if we had extra Jims and Joes to make this offense better, man. I like Jalen Coker as much as next cokehead. Tetairoa McMillan's really good. But, man, they've never been able to get the tight ends involved. I tried to defend Brazzell a little bit. He's out of the picture, though, so it doesn't even matter. So I get to this range, and I look at Tetairoa McMillan, and I say he's a really good wide receiver. I do believe in his talent. I also think Ladd McConkey is a really good talent. I also think Devontae Smith is a really good talent. I think Malik Neighbors is an amazing talent. I'm drafting all those guys over Tetairoa McMillan. I have not made a habit of drafting this dude. If we can get a quarterback upgrade in Carolina, or if Bryce Young finds a way to be really good at football, I'll obviously be wrong. This is a bust, though, that I am going to generally agree with. I will go an 8 out of 10 bust rate for Mr. McMillan. Next up, we have Emeka Egbuka, guys. Again, these are not necessarily guys I'm saying are going to bust, but I'm saying based on how they finished last year and based on how their offense is being projected to finish this year, we should at least be trying to be aware of it, all right? Because it's been nothing but love for Emeka Egbuka, and yet he finished last year ranked 36th in PPR points per game, and the Buccaneers offense going into 2026 ranks just 18th per the men in the desert. So glass half full, though, would be what Emeka Egbuka did in the first 6 weeks, particularly the first 5 weeks of last season. Wide receiver 3 overall behind only Puka and Amon-Ra St. Brown in weeks 1 through 5. 102.4 PPR points during those first 5 games. The only other receivers to ever surpass that mark, Puka Nacua and Randy freaking Moss. There was the long Eagles play where, Baker threaded it between 2 dudes. They ran into each other, took off. Some of the separation wasn't amazing, but I don't know. You also watch the Seahawks game. He's running a nasty out and up and catching a 60-yard pass, getting tackled at the 1-yard line. 2 tuds in the season opener. I mean, I don't think Egbuka necessarily looked like a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL. I think his fantasy numbers were a little bit inflated early on, but man, he still looked really freaking good out there, guys. So no more Mike Evans. Egbuka, we're hearing from Zach Robinson and the kind of brass over in Tampa Bay right now that he is going to be their version of Cooper Kupp, which I know is annoying for people like me to always be saying that because it kind of implies that Cooper Kupp isn't just amazing in his own right. But hey, my colleague over here at Team RotoWire, Theo Greminger, said it nice. Emeka Egbuka makes you think, guys. Really does make you think. So he is projected and the favorite to lead this offense in targets. So even if the offense isn't incredible, would still expect that to yield some good results for Egbuka in Fantasyland. And if we did Benjamin Button his rookie season, certainly would be feeling a lot better about a guy breaking out down the stretch. And oh yeah, why did he not do better down the stretch? Because he suffered the hamstring injury, which again made life that much tougher on him. Great stat from Ben Solak over at ESPN. Emeka Egbuka last year had 11 routes of at least 18 miles per hour in his first 5 weeks of the year. Then he had the hamstring injury, only 11 such routes in the remaining 12 weeks combined. So again, you can see it with your own eyes. We can see it with the numbers from Next Gen Stats. Clearly he was compromised. When he wasn't compromised, legit high on wide receiver 1 in Fantasyland. So that's the glass half full. Glass half empty. The rest of last season happened, and we are probably overstating the difference between him and Chris Godwin, who has long time, man, been an awesome fantasy receiver. In fact, the last time we saw Chris Godwin healthy to start his season, what'd he do? He worked as the overall wide receiver 2 behind only Jamar Chase in 2024. Funny how we forget that so quickly. You know what I'm saying? And why did Godwin not do great last year? Well, he was coming back from a freaking horrific dislocated ankle injury. Reports out of training camp, Godwin looks like he's got his explosive ability back. He is getting up there. He's 30 years old at this point. But man, when we look at some of the discrepancies between the really highly ranked wide receivers and the other guys, I don't have the same conviction here, all right? Ladd McConkey versus Quentin Johnston. I think we can all agree Ladd's the much more talented player, right? Not that QJ can't do his thing, but Puka versus Devontae Adams at this point, obviously Puka. Justin Jefferson versus Jordan Addison. Again, Addison's really good. He's not Justin Jefferson. Out of all those, even Chris Olave, Jordan Tyson, I'd say that one's actually tighter. Disregard that one. Out of those, I think we can agree Emeka Egbuka, Chris Godwin. We would be far less surprised if we look up in week 14. It's like, oh, Godwin's outscoring Emeka Egbuka this year. Godwin's an issue. Maybe Jaylen McMillan, Ted Hurst, Tez Johnson, maybe these guys could be issues. I do think Egbuka's going to have a full-time role. He was rotating with Jaylen McMillan down the stretch of last year. Now, that was with Mike Evans in town. Mike Evans is no longer there. I think it had to do with the injury, but we don't know for sure. Additionally, 2024, more and more guys, if you asked someone who's never watched or played football before, doesn't know anything, but they know stats, if you just told them, showed them Baker Mayfield's career numbers year by year, they would say 2024 is an outlier. Now, Baker was incredible in the first 6 weeks of last year, and he has his own injuries to worry about. That, again, took him down a notch. But, again, the complementary target competition is higher than I think a lot of other wide receivers in this range. We have a good quarterback. I think we can probably agree, not a great one. And we have a player who, yes, was banged up last year, but man, we got a long way to go from wide receiver 36 to where he's being drafted right now, which is wide receiver 18. All that said, I'm still more willing to buy here. This is a first-round pick who broke the freaking Ohio State record for receptions, second-year player, just very capable of being the Z receiver in the Zach Robinson offense. I think just eating up receptions. So Godwin is 30 at this point. I think Godwin's a fine click where he goes in that wide receiver 4 range. All right. Good value there. I will admit, I've been taking McConkey over Emeka Egbuka. I've been taking Jaylen Waddle over Emeka Egbuka. Malik Neighbors, Devontae Smith. Zay Flowers is close. So I do prefer some guys, but to say Egbuka is a major bust risk, I would push back on that. But again, some very real questions here for Emeka Egbuka. I'd say probably a 5 out of 10 on the bust factor here. Up next in our potential bust watch, Jaylen Waddle, guys. Yeah, Jaylen Waddle, the guy I can't stop drafting, the guy I got ranked inside my top 12. He did pop here. 2026 Denver Broncos projected offensive rank per Vegas, 21st. Waddle's rank in 2025, even with Tyreek Hill being out for most of the season, just a wide receiver 29 in PPR points per game. So again, he fits our criteria of being in a bottom half offense per Vegas and also being someone who couldn't finish better than wide receiver 24 last year. Now, the glass half full for Waddle, I'll try to keep it short because I go on about this dude seemingly every single show, but he's the wide receiver 1 for an offense that just had Bo freaking Nix lead the NFL in pass attempts. And speaking of Bo freaking Nix, maybe he takes a step forward. It's legal. We've seen young quarterbacks get this sort of insertion early in their career and all of a sudden really become great. Jalen Hurts with A.J. Brown, Kyler Murray with DeAndre Hopkins, Josh Allen with Stephon Diggs, Tua himself with Tyreek Hill. Adding someone like Jaylen Waddle who can change the way defenses have to defend this offense based on his speed and field stretching ability really could make life that much better for Bo Nix, the entire offense, and accordingly, their number 1 wide receiver, which is Jaylen Waddle. We have seen back-to-back to start his career, top 15 seasons in PPR points per game. And my thing is we all accept Devontae Smith as this now borderline wide receiver 1 in Fantasyland. Most people are, at least. What's the huge difference here? Is it just Jalen Hurts being that much better than Bo Nix? I agree Hurts is better than Bo Nix, but pure passing, getting the ball to their wide receivers, I think we could agree. It's closer. Maybe you want to give Bo Nix the edge. At a minimum, all the pass game volume that we have in Denver over Philly, give Hurts a little more efficiency than Bo Nix, fine. With the extra volume being afforded, I mean, Waddle, in my opinion, has a much higher target ceiling than what Devontae Smith has. Devontae no longer is next to AJB. Waddle is no longer next to Tyreek Hill. Mekhi Lemon, first-round pick in Philly. Courtland Sutton, older veteran guy in Denver. I don't think there's that big of a difference there. So Sean Payton, one of the brightest offensive minds of the 21st century. I don't think that's up for debate. Jaylen Waddle's is wide receiver 1. Everything we hear about training camp is the offense is going through him, playing a lot out of the slot, a lot of reason for optimism. But again, we're talking about potential bust for a reason, and the glass half empty case is he couldn't get it done last year without Tyreek Hill. And this offense, maybe it's more meh than great. I look at these Vegas offensive ranks as a directional idea. I don't make it the basis of everything I believe about life. 21st feels low for me. I would not rank the Broncos 21st. That said, would I rank them in the top 10? I don't think so. Broncos offense going the next season deserves to be closer to 16 than 1. I think we can agree on that. So if Jaylen Waddle is the number 1 wide receiver for an offense, that's more good than great. That still has Courtland Sutton around to maybe soak up red zone touchdowns. That has a guy in Bo Nix who, led the league in passing attempts last year. Couldn't crack 4,000 yards. That's pretty damning. 6.5 yards per attempt over his last 2 years. That's not good company to be keeping. I talked about it with Kyler and J.J. McCarthy. When you're 6.5 or fewer yards per attempt, guys, you're seeing a lot of really, really bad quarterbacks. I don't think Bo Nix is a bad quarterback. he hasn't exactly been surrounded by a bunch of diamonds here in this offense, and now he's got one in Jaylen Waddle, at least in my, kind of biased opinion because I'm drafting this dude a lot, but I'm trying to, cut through that. I think the Broncos offense will be better, but what if it's not? What if Bo Nix coming off the ankle is a little bit hobbled? What if even adding Jaylen Waddle to the situation doesn't help Bo Nix really improve from just objectively being one of the lesser efficient passers in the NFL? I saw the Packers game down the stretch, even the playoff game against the Bills. We've seen the high ceiling there. Bo Nix has a cannon. That bomb against the Bengals, Marvin Mims, he can make plays out of structure. There's a ceiling here for Bo Nix attached to Sean Payton, adding someone like Jaylen Waddle, but we simply haven't seen that ceiling over the course of an entire season yet. Broncos very much ran hot in one-score games last year. Maybe they're not going to be as good. Maybe we'll see some ugly 16-13 rock fights with that defense, and all of a sudden it's just not the best offensive environment to be around. That said, when it comes time for our bust meter, I'm going 3 out of 10 here, guys. I just think that difference in target competition is huge, and we're going to see Waddle for the first time featured as the engine of his passing game for the first time since his rookie year. And the big thing for me, too, is the difference between that rookie year and then what we saw happen with Mike McDaniel. When Mike McDaniel came to town, Waddle was just winning with these, again, big, huge plays. Runs after the catch, man. That Christmas Day game against the Packers, him just running away from the entire defense. Year one, it really wasn't that. His yards per catch doubled from year one to year two. They just had nothing going in that offense, and they just basically centered the whole thing around feeding the ball to Jaylen Waddle. And guess what? He did great. He racked up a bunch of short catches, and he was very adept at doing that. I think we're going to see a combination of those this year in a very well-schemed Sean Payton Davis Webb attack with a young ascending quarterback in Bo Nix playing the best football of his career. I'm excited for Jaylen Waddle, but I will say this type of stuff, a little bit concerning there. And hey, maybe there's a reason why people are drafting Waddle a little bit closer to that wide receiver 2 line, whereas myself, I'm leaning more into that wide receiver 1 hype there. But Jaylen Waddle, someone where no, I do not think he is going to bust this year, but certainly has at least a few red flags that if he does bust, we can go back this year and say, oh, right. So last guy I want to talk about, scary Terry McLaurin, guys. And hey, I put this together even before the Stephon Diggs trade, but signing. We'll talk about him in a second. 2026 Washington Commanders. Vegas has them 16th in scoring. So just on the edge here, technically top half. Garrett Wilson, by the way, just missed this because he finished 15th last year, but it was also a shortened season. So could have added Garrett Wilson, but I've already talked about him as one of my fades this year anyway. So yeah, spoiler, if you did want to include Garrett Wilson, I would have a very high bust rate for Garrett Wilson. Terry McLaurin, probably not as high, but it's not exactly this, case closed scenario. 16th ranked offense. Last year, he finished 37th in PPR points per game at the position. Now, a lot of that was catching passes from Marcus Mariota. Didn't get a chance to play much with Jaden Daniels. He had the early season injury stemming from the contract dispute. It was not a clean season. We go back in the glass half full scenario. 2024, best quarterback play of Terry McLaurin's career. What did he do? He caught 13 touchdowns, man. He was fantastic. Wide receiver 14, 15.8 PPR points per game. The only show in town, and it didn't matter. They couldn't stop it. Jaden Daniels was really freaking good. Terry McLaurin was really freaking good. Match made in heaven. We saw this borderline wide receiver 1 season. We now get a healthy Jaden Daniels. We get David Blau. He's been in this organization. He was the assistant quarterback coach, maybe the assistant to the quarterback coach last season. They want to do more under center stuff. They want to do more play action. They want to move Terry McLaurin around more, not be so stationary in the Cliff Kingsbury offense. You know what I'm saying? The glass half full view for Terry McLaurin is that he's a really good receiver who produced really good results in his 1 year with a really good quarterback. And now we are actually going to see him moved around the formation more for the first time, that he's also had those other variables on his side. Glass half empty scenario is, I think he'll see less double teams with Stephon Diggs around. I also think his chances of getting 150 plus targets took a hit. I talked before about Egbuka versus Godwin compared to Jefferson versus Addison, compared to, CD versus Pickens. That's a closer one. I got to do something where I just kind of, again, compare all these wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2s and be like, where do we have the confidence scale with them? I'll say this. Terry McLaurin versus Stephon Diggs. I think it's a lot closer to Egbuka and Godwin than I do it is to Jefferson and Addison in terms of who could actually be the wide receiver one, like in our surprise for that. McLaurin and the quarterbacks have been horrible. Him and DJ Moore, man, God bless him. I don't think either has been as good as Andre Johnson, but like you look at Andre Johnson's quarterbacks throughout his career, McLaurin and DJ Moore, just their track record, very similar. Terry, those quarterbacks be damned. He's more so been an upside wide receiver 3 throughout most of his career. 2019, he was a wide receiver 29. Then he was a wide receiver 20, 31, 23, 36, 14 in 2024, 34 last season. He's done this generally as the only wide receiver worth a damn in his offense. Stephon Diggs is objectively the best wide receiver we have ever seen Terry McLaurin have to share the field with. We had an old Debo last year. Rookie year, Jahan Dotson was a hell of a drug. I'm an Ohio State guy, so I'll sit here and defend Curtis Samuel until my cheeks are even redder than they usually are. But man, Zach Ertz was the number 2 target on that 2024 Commanders team. So yeah, Diggs should take away some attention, but he's also going to be a candidate to get triple-digit targets. And I think that loss in overall target upside, I'm just not convinced we're going to see that gap made up for in overall efficiency. You might disagree. I get it. But Stephon Diggs is really good, man. Has not finished worse, Stephon Diggs, than wide receiver 25 since Obama was in office. It's a long time ago, man. Not to get all political on you guys. I don't think it's 100-0 how Terry leads the way in targets. Like we just saw, different situation. But what would you have said last year, the chances this time? Like what would you have thought the chances were that Keenan Allen would out-target Ladd McConkey? Because that happened. And I know Herbert had a history with Keenan. But man, just because it's a later signing doesn't mean Diggs is someone who we can dismiss as not leading the offense, but being pretty freaking involved, man. So I've updated my ranks. Of course, I still prefer Terry McLaurin to Stephon Diggs, but I prefer Emeka Egbuka to Chris Godwin. I just think, again, the chances of them being a little bit tighter, they matter, man. I moved Terry McLaurin down before I had him right there with Mike Evans, Devontae Adams. I moved Christian Watson, Parker Washington, who I'm drinking the Kool-Aid on, and Jameson Williams ahead of him. I think it's now Terry McLaurin versus DJ Moore, and I think it's pretty tight. Stephon Diggs for me comes in. Wide receiver 42, top 100 player. I have him next to Michael Pittman, Xavier Worthy, Jacoby Myers. Chris Godwin's a few spots ahead. Stephon Diggs looked really good last year, and that was coming off a knee injury. Only reason he didn't really put up more numbers because the Patriots, they were winning handily and they rotated players trying to keep guys fresh. It worked out for them. They made the freaking Super Bowl. I'm not critiquing Josh McDaniels for that. This is going to be tight. I prefer Evans. I prefer Adams. I probably even prefer DJ Moore over Terry McLaurin at this point. Now, the other side of this is Terry, wide receiver 23, ESPN ADP. Yeah, that's too high for right now, but I also had him about there before this news happened. I would imagine other people in the public are going to not be feeling so great about this. They're going to be moving him down as well. So as things stand right now on August 5th, I do think based on his previous ADP, the bust risk for Terry McLaurin is high. I'd say a 9 out of 10. But if we do see Terry move down into more of that mid-tier wide receiver 3 range, yeah, of course, I'm going to lower it. As always, don't hit the player, hit the ADP. Right now, Terry's ADP is too high, but I would imagine it's going to lower a little bit and be a little more affordable. Hopefully a nice discount for us when we actually do get around to our fantasy drafts. So again, guys, Terry McLaurin, someone I am a little more worried about given the new presence of Stephon Diggs, given the reality that, again, he's going to be 31 in September and just more years not there in his career. Been more of that upside wide receiver 3. I am a little more worried about Emeka Egbuka than I was before. Again, just really trying to think through the overall offensive upside and the potential reality that Chris Godwin could be eating into some of the targets. That said, Egbuka, where he's going in drafts, I'm not afraid of him at that range. I do just probably prefer Ladd McConkey, Neighbors, Devontae Smith when it comes down to it. Jaylen Waddle, I see the issues. I'm still in on Jaylen Waddle. I'm not letting this deter me. Tetairoa McMillan, he's someone I'm consistently not drafting on his ADP. Again, Neighbors, Devontae Smith, Waddle, those type of guys I'm taking instead. Justin Jefferson, of course, I prefer Justin Jefferson to all these wide receivers we just talked about, but it's not about that. It's, do you want to use a top 10 pick on Justin Jefferson? I do not. If he gets past the turn, early round 2, maybe you just want him at 112, fine, go for it. Just not convinced we're going to see that quarterback situation improve in a considerable way after we just saw it doom Jetta's last season. But guys, that's going to wrap up this video. Let me know if you disagree on some of these busts. This might come as a shocker to you, but I have been wrong before and I will be wrong again. So happy to, again, chop it up in the comments. I appreciate you guys generally being nice, but, feel free to not be nice. Tell me I look dumb. Tell me I have a dumb take. I will be happy to, again, bark about that there. I always go through and read those and then try to respond as much as possible as well. So maybe you liked the video. If you did, please hit that like button. Hitting subscribe always helps us out as well. So otherwise, guys, really do just enjoy your time here on planet Earth. Life is short and fantasy football is fun, but also always a good idea to go out there, touch some grass, call your family, and just try to have a great day. So with that said, I'm Ian Hartitz. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, take care, everybody.